Good morning and welcome to our webinar. My name is Andy Deal with Saratech. I'm your host for this event. With me is Sarah Tsugi, who will be monitoring the chat and Q&A. Today, we'll be discussing how to leverage 3D printing to improve product development. I'm pleased to announce that joining us are special guests, Wes Kramer from HP, Matt Schmidt from Siemens, and Jeff Blanford from MORF3D Aerospace. In the next 45 minutes, we will discuss why you need to seriously look at adopting 3D printing, how to choose the right 3D printing technologies for your company, and ways to optimize your current 3D printing process if you are already an adopter. Our customer, Jeff Blanford from MORF3D, will share how they are using additive manufacturing and Siemens software at MORF to improve their process. I found these quotes very interesting. Some of the world's greatest leaders and brightest minds denied some of our greatest innovations. Make no mistake, predicting the future is impossible and would be naive to think that we could. Looking back at some of the brightest minds of the last century, we can see that they often got the future quite wrong. In fact, nearly everything we take for granted today was at one time discounted by the brightest minds of the day. So today, I invite you to remove any preconceived notions you may have on 3D printing and the future of this technology. It is truly limitless. 3D printing technology has been around for more than 30 years, but meaningful growth did not begin until around 2010. Over the last decade, the industry has been on a stable growth path. It's expected to expand at a compound annual growth rate of 21% between now and 2028. Although 3D printing is still less than 1% of the global manufacturing market, additive technology is becoming an invaluable tool for production workflows. The perception of 3D printing as a prototyping technology only is definitely changing. A recent survey conducted by 3D Hubs indicates that 84% of engineering businesses maintain or increase end-use part production in 2020. And 73% of engineering businesses predicted that they will produce or source more 3D printing parts this year. Why are these numbers significant? They show that companies are investing in additive manufacturing technologies. 3D printing is becoming a vital part of the product development process, and you don't want to be left behind. The four industries you see here are among the most mature adopters of 3D printing. Let's dig into some of the reasons why. 3D printing makes it possible to develop products at a much faster pace. In some instances, it could be possible for 3D concepts to be designed and printed on the same day. Companies can reduce manufacturing time from months to days, ensuring that they remain ahead of their competitors. Being a single-step manufacturing process, 3D printing saves time and costs associated with using different machines for manufacturing. 3D printing runs can be automated and monitored remotely. There's no need for operators to be present the entire time. This manufacturing process can also reduce costs on materials. In fact, 80% of the powder used on an HP MJF print is recycled and can be used in future runs. With traditional manufacturing techniques, complicated designs are generally more difficult or even impossible to produce. 3D printing has obliterated the limits for designers. Advanced software technology, combined with the flexibility of additive manufacturing, allow innovative ideas to become reality. Customization. has become a requirement for a lot of customers. Not only does 3D printing allow more design freedom, it also allows complete customization of designs. This technology has been embraced by the medical and dental industry to manufacture custom prosthetics, implants, and dental aids. From sporting gears that is tailored to perfectly fit an athlete to custom sunglasses, additive manufacturing allows cost-effective single-run production of custom parts. When businesses can confirm a design before committing to mass production, it significantly reduces the risk of errors, wasted materials, and money. 3D printing helps to increase confidence when developing and launching new products. As you listen to Wes, Matt, and Jeff today, please think about where and how you can apply these technologies in your company. If you're not sure, we're here to help. At this time, I would like to introduce Wes Kramer, Application Engineer at HP, for the next part of our presentation. Wes?
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate you giving some really nice background into 3D printing and what some of the really big key advantages are. And so what I would like to talk about today are some real life examples of how 3D printing is being used by HP across different points in the product life cycle for different products of ours. So if you look at the next slide, what I have laid out for you here is a simple curve that plots the production volume across a product's life cycle. So if you look at this curve, this represents a pretty common trend that you see across many different types of products out there in the market. And so starting out, you have this development phase where you're producing a few prototypes here and there. Maybe you're doing some test parts or some clinical trials. You have very low volumes of production to begin with. Then as the product matures, you start looking at the full-scale manufacturing of that product. So you can see there's a peak there at which the demand for the product is going to be the highest, and therefore your supply is going to have to rise to meet that demand. Eventually, though, there's going to be other products out there on the market that compete. That's going to phase out the product. You're going to slowly start getting a decrease in demand for that product. You're going to reach a point where you're no longer kind of mass producing this part, but you're simply producing enough parts to keep a nice spare parts inventory in order to service the machines for the remainder of their lifetime out there in the field. And so looking at these first two inflection points kind of, at the very beginning of the process and at the very end, we have two things that we're looking at. One is prototyping. And we're not going to look at any specific examples of this today used by HP. I can tell you it's used all the time. It's not just used at our company. Prototyping is definitely by far still the largest use of 3D printing right now. It's been used for prototyping for the last several decades. And what I'm really excited to show you today is where we can use 3D printing outside of just making prototypes. And so let's take a look at this first example of spare parts in this concept of a digital inventory. So what HP did is we looked at some different products of ours, and we looked at this large format printer. So this is a relatively, high price point product, and it's something that, a customer expects to be serviced well after HP manufactures and sells the product. And so traditionally, what a company would do is say they reach the end of the life cycle for this product. They're not going to sell it anymore. What they need to do is produce a large inventory of spare parts in order to maintain and to service that machine for the remainder of its time out there in the field. And so this incurs really big costs as we keep a physical inventory of these parts. But what we can do with 3D printing is instead of having that physical inventory that costs a lot of space, costs a lot of money, we can move to this concept of a digital inventory. And so what we did is we identified several plastic parts and components that we could move to 3D printing. And so when a spare part is needed, instead of having to warehouse it, we can pull that on demand from our digital inventory, print it, and send it out to the customer. Awesome. Next here on the product life cycle, we have something that goes along the entire duration of this production, and that's going to be things like manufacturing aids. So if you think of jigs, fixtures, tooling, things that need to be kind of custom made in very small runs to assist with the manufacturing process, 3D printing is going to be an excellent option for the production of these parts. So let's take a look at an example of this that HP used. So here we have an aluminum part that was machined and made up of 7 parts consolidated together into one assembly. And so this, you can see the weight there and the cost. This was very expensive to make. It weighed a lot. You had to order it in a minimum order quantity of 13 from a shop. And, I'm actually surprised with this turnaround time. It would only take about 3 to 5 days. But you can see here, we were able to transform this design and to consolidate all those parts into one part that we were printing out of plastic. It saved a ton on weight, so it reduced the weight by 90%, and the cost went down astronomically as well. So now you're looking at about $18 per this part versus the assembly costing $450 before. You can make it in a minimum order quantity of just 1. You can produce it on demand, as many as you need, and the turnaround time is only going to be 1 or 2 days. So excellent example of a manufacturing aid being able to much more efficiently be produced with 3D printing. Next here on our product lifecycle journey is, I think a very key inflection point where we're seeing 3D printing address, and it's this concept of bridge production. So what do you do when you have a new product? You don't know how it's going to perform out there in the market. You don't know what the demand's going to be. You don't know if you're going to have to make changes to the design. Traditionally, you would have to basically roll the dice, pay upfront for a tool for those parts to be machined, and you're going to start, kind of mass producing that part. If you need to make a change, you're out of luck. So bridge production, this in-between phase between the design and development process and full-scale manufacturing, is where 3D printing can really address this with the design flexibility it gives you. So if we look at the next slide, here's an example of how HP used this concept of bridge production with 3D printing for a new product that it was introducing. So this is a 3D camera that was a brand new market space. We needed to put it out there quickly. We needed to learn, and we needed to be able to iterate. And so we identified a few different components on this product where we could 3D print plastic parts. And what we were able to do is to avoid paying upfront for tooling costs. We were able to learn from our customers, make any design changes we needed. We were able to learn what the demand was going to be. And then if we needed to produce tooling later on to, say, mass produce this in quantities of tens of thousands or millions, we could. But in this awkward sort of in-between bridge production phase, we're able to use 3D printing to avoid a lot of costs and to allow the design flexibility to offer changes. And then last on here is actually full production. So a lot of people don't think full production could be possible with 3D printing, but HP and our breakthrough speeds, our part strength, our accuracy is all enabling that. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later on here. But why you would 3D print parts in full production might be because you wouldn't be able to make that part with traditional manufacturing. And so we have a few different use cases where the geometry is such that you couldn't injection mold it or you couldn't machine it, and it's been optimized for its performance, and you could only manufacture it with 3D printing. So we have a really cool example, if we look at the next slide, of how we were able to take a part and we were able to optimize it and 3D print it in the end. So this was a partnership that we had with Siemens, and we worked together to optimize the airflow through a channel around a bend in one of our systems. So the next slide here, we can see what types of improvements we're able to make. So in order to injection mold this part before, it was actually made up of 6 parts that you would have to assemble. And you think of die lock constraints, you wouldn't be able to injection mold that all together in one piece. You have to do it separately and assemble it later on. So you're looking at, something like $30 to do all of that. Well, the first thing we were able to do with 3D printing is to consolidate all of those parts into just one. And so that already was saving us a lot of money just from avoiding the assembly steps. And then we took it a step further, and we enlisted the help of Siemens to run a CFD analysis and to figure out how can we optimize this design, this topology, to maximize our airflow through this channel. And so we were able to improve the flow by 22.3%. So not only were we able to save money on the production of this part, we were able to enhance the performance of the part, which is going to save money for whoever was operating the machinery later on. So that's an excellent example of a 3D printed design that could not be traditionally manufactured, and one that we would go into full-scale production with. So looking at HP's strategy here, why we're talking about, not just prototyping, but different points along the product lifecycle journey. We don't really believe in simply doing as good as what's been done in the industry before. We want to do better. So instead of just looking at this 3D printing space, we want to address this $12 trillion manufacturing sector. We want to go for that bigger piece of the pie. In order to do that, there are a few things that need to happen that we've identified. And a few key ones are that we need to enhance product capability. So we need parts that are stronger, parts that are more accurate, more repeatable, more close to the traditional manufacturing means that are out there. And this has been a challenge for additive manufacturing for a while. We need to be able to have better material prices that compete with traditional manufacturing. And we need to be able to have a wide portfolio of different materials, just like, again, the traditional manufacturing means that are out there. So in the next slide, we take a look at the MJF process and kind of what sets it aside from the other 3D printing processes, and why it is uniquely capable of addressing some of these major challenges in this market and addressing that manufacturing sector. So the way, kind of very high level, how the process works is we use 2 agents. And so we leverage our inkjet printing technology, and we actually use the same technology in our 3D printers. So instead of printing ink on paper, we print this fusing and detailing agent on this thin layer of plastic powder. So the first step in the process is to spread a thin layer of plastic powder. It's about 80 microns thick. And then if you look at the next step here, we are going to apply our agents. So you apply black fusing agent where you want the part to fuse and to melt into the part, and you apply this detailing agent around the perimeter where you want to prevent fusing from happening. And if you look at the next step, what we do is we apply thermal energy. And just like a black car in the summer is going to get hotter than a white car in the summer, the black fusing agent is able to absorb this infrared light energy, and that is actually enough to put it into a full melt and allow it to fully melt and bond with the layer below it. So it's not just bonding, but it's actually fusing to that layer below it, which is going to give you great isotropy and great mechanical properties in all 3 axes. And so once you apply that energy, what you are left with is this fully fused material. And so what we're going to look at next is a video, and what it's going to highlight is how we are looking at an area-wide process here, okay? It's not just a point-based system like the previous 3D printing technologies. Great, so I really like that video because the analogy I like to use is, think about writing a paper, for a class or something with a pencil or a pen. You have to trace each letter individually to make that, versus just printing that paper for you, and it's all done kind of in one foul sweep. And so that's how our process works, and that's how we're able to produce so many parts so quickly, and it's what allows us to introduce this concept of mass production with 3D printing. And again, you're not just producing parts quickly, but we have full layer-to-layer fusion, which makes parts very strong. We have high levels of detail with our print heads that allows us to achieve great accuracy. And so we're really starting to disrupt this 3D printing industry and start to address this $12 trillion manufacturing space. So to recap real quickly, the concepts we talked about today is we're taking this traditional part design cycle where you design for your manufacturing process, you simulate that process through mold flow or something similar, you design a tool to manufacture it, you fabricate that tool, then you build, then you test your parts, and if something goes wrong, you have to start that whole process over again. And this is a process that in some cases can take several months and can even take over a year in some cases. And it requires a lot of collaboration with other companies, a lot of times overseas. And it can take, a very long time to get your product out there in the market. With 3D printing and with MJF, the cycle is very significantly reduced. You have your part design, you have the packing of the bill, so you're designed for additive manufacturing. You build the part, you print it, you get your part the next day, you test that part and you can iterate. And we're taking this, several month-long process and we're condensing it down to something that can be done in a matter of a few days or even a couple weeks. And so MJF is really, I think, uniquely suited to address all these different parts along the product lifecycle journey for all these different sectors. But at the end of the day, your printer is only as good as the parts you're going to be printing. And to get really nice quality parts, you need very nice quality design software. And so I have the pleasure of introducing Matt here with Siemens, who's going to talk about that first step in the process, which is going to be the part design and getting really high value parts from your software. Matt, I'm handing off to you.
All right, thank you, Wes. Impressive technology. Thanks for that. Welcome, everyone. My name is Matt Schmidt, Portfolio Development Executive for Siemens Digital Industry Software, and I focus on helping our customers with the industrialization of additive manufacturing. I collaborate with our channel partners here, like Saratech, and our additive manufacturing OEM partner, HP, to help tackle the various challenges of additive manufacturing with the use of our software solutions. Next slide. Oops. So the goal here today, oops, I'm sorry, did you want to back up just one? I apologize. Thank you. So the goal here today is to talk about additive manufacturing from the small to medium-sized business perspective and how we can help growing customers utilize software solutions to help them solve the hard problems that often lead to slower adoption rates and less benefit realization. If you're an additive manufacturing supplier, for example, this might mean lower profit margins due to failed builds or long lead times, due to collaboration issues with customers. If you're developing products, new product development, this could be part qualification or validation concerns. So either way, tackling some of these challenges can be information overload. In this part of the webinar, I'm going to aim to help simplify the critical aspects that can help drive your business. Realizing that the Siemens portfolio is quite large, big Siemens, but I'm going to help break down these solutions to specific challenges that you can use immediately, implement, and start realizing returns. So as we climb the adoption curve of additive manufacturing, we recognized pretty quickly that the way companies are approaching the software side of the additive manufacturing processes is impacting their ability to get the maximum return on investment from this technology. The point here is that the right software can help you achieve more. And with one of the biggest problems in the additive manufacturing world is disconnection. Almost all organizations are managing requirements today in some disconnected way, whether it's your CAD system, topology optimization, simulation software, OEM slicers, or maybe even downstream post-processing CAM data. They're often isolated, and when they're disconnected from the rest of the product life cycle, they're not going to have power to influence decisions, maybe except for during periodic design reviews where you might catch these problems. But, you know, on the other hand, when something changes either on the requirement of the design side and it's not caught, you don't see the impact or connection, that means your team is going to end up in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong revision. You know, obviously that's not a big advantage to your team. So, you know, here at Siemens, we recognize this problem, and our response to these issues was to create an overall end-to-end integrated software process for additive manufacturing. Now, looking at the slide, you know, there's quite a bit of information here, and your additive manufacturing workflow may not need or have every single one of these steps in the process, but the beauty of an end-to-end system is that you can use individual point solutions that you might need today, but be rest assured that the parts that you'll need tomorrow as your business grows will be there, ready to be integrated into your process with minimal effort. Let's start here by dealing with the all-important issue of bad CAD data. One of the major pain points in additive manufacturing workflow is the relative difficulty in importing, fixing, and editing CAD data that has been exported from some point, you know, to modify this for print preparation. You know, this is regardless of that customer is in-house or external, they're a solution provider, or working from another CAD system. You're going to receive some type of file that contains mesh errors, knit surface problems, or maybe even, you know, poor additive design practice. And that correction is sometimes highly painful and costs a lot of time to get done. There's a lot of going back and forth with customers on CAD models. This could maybe even lead to a lost market opportunity or a lost sale. So, you know, with Siemens NX software, you utilize industry-leading CAD tools that can allow you to easily import customer data, quickly make necessary corrections, and efficiently push that data to the next part of your additive workflow, which means you can edit geometry using normal CAD tools, regardless of the file format. STL data, step files, native SolidWorks data, it doesn't matter. NX can import, translate, and allow you to manipulate any geometry using the same tool set. You don't need to jump around different software programs, and you don't need to ask for other files if changes are required. All of that is going to go away with the ability of NX CAD modeling features on any sort of data. So when tackling, you know, some of the time constraints and collaborations with your customers, you need the ability, you know, to easily communicate things like print feasibility, order filling and status, lead times, quotes and POs, etc. The Siemens Additive Manufacturing Network is a cloud-based solution that's going to help you to easily collaborate with your customers, regardless of whether the customer is in-house, external, a colleague. You know, it doesn't matter if you're printing parts for your company or a customer. You can take orders, estimate costs, give customer feedback about the additive manufacturing process from all perspectives on a secure cloud-based interface. So once you and your customers or colleagues are in the network, you have access to the entire Siemens ecosystem of service providers, OEMs, and suppliers, for that matter as well. So next, if your business plan doesn't revolve around design and engineering work today, you know, this is one area of additive manufacturing where you can really help grow your business. The need to communicate quality design for additive manufacturing practices and services is very critical. And many companies are viewing this as an opportunity for growth, creating that competitive advantage over, you know, supplier X and supplier Z. You know, the NX CAD system is going to allow you to design many different features that are optimal for additive, like with integrated NX lattice structure design, where you can choose from multiple methods for creating unique structures for lightweighting and heat dissipation or strength, or topology optimization for organic designs is also built into NX, allowing you to define inputs and then letting the CAD system intelligence design the optimal part per your requirements, or even cutting edge advanced implicit modeling capabilities. They're going to allow you to create very complex triplicity or periodic minimal surfaces, for example, that are often used in heat exchanger design. This only highlighted a few of our DFAM features, but all of these capabilities are built into NX, so there's no need to switch software packages or exchange STLs or any other file formats. Process simulation is another critical component of additive manufacturing in maintaining your efficiency rates. Additive manufacturing has a huge number of variables, and getting any one of those variables wrong can negatively impact the quality of the output. This, of course, results in the generation of scrap and the backlog of time required to complete jobs that are in the queue. And even many companies build a certain amount of scrap and cost and extra time, into their estimates for customers to compensate for this. So another real competitive advantage here is if a company was able to short circuit this and build first time right and eliminate the scrap process, how much does that contribute to your advantage as well? At Siemens, we've invested heavily in additive simulation and DFAM design tools to aid in first time right printing strategies. Today, you can automatically validate both metal and polymer parts for printability with built-in DFAM checkers. These look for geometry issues like thin walls, excessive overhangs, or enclosed voids. Performing these checks up front saves a lot of costly rework time and build preparation down the road, obviously. And even for metal printing, you can optimize certain build orientations to reduce deformation, as well as simulate the entire build process to identify area concerns like recoder jams or heat dissipation. You can even generate new model geometry based off of that simulation that's going to help compensate your original design for any anticipated distortion during the build process. So that is the power of the intelligence feedback loop. And this can help massively reduce your time to print, as well as the amount of scrap generated from your print processes. So let me just focus a little bit more on operational efficiency here, the time that it takes to complete the build preparation process. As I spoke before, the disjoint in software and silos that we see in many companies lead to very inefficient production processes. With our system, you can easily place parts in a build tray, for example, with automated nesting features. You can generate quick estimates of cost and time to print, and you can print directly to the widest range of printer hardware on the market today, including metal, polymer, and composite solutions, including our partner here in our ecosystem, HP. By automating, some of the heavy lifting here with automated nesting for HP, for example, we're helping to reduce the time it takes to complete the overall build preparation process, getting you to market faster. Last, I'd like to mention change management and how we can change dramatically, the impact of a change that upon your process. And we all understand how change can bring a process to a grinding halt. And how many times has customer or colleague said, hey, we originally ordered 40 of these, but we're going to need 50 now. Or, we originally wanted Inconel material, but we've done some research and I think we can utilize aluminum to save cost and weight. Or last but certainly not least, we need to make a slight change to the design. I need to get you another revisions. How much time does it take to manage these changes in the workflow? Is it hours? Is it days to go back through build preparation, simulation, setting up the printer, maybe even possibly changing materials in the printer? But Siemens software is going to help you manage these unexpected changes by allowing you to easily update your design file and build setup to reflect new revisions with direct associativity. So as we covered before, because the Siemens software has CAD and build preparation, all these tools integrated into the same package, you can easily import new geometry, replace the old geometry, and update support configurations and build files downstream to automatically update that new revision. If your current software isn't integrated, these changes become much more difficult and time-consuming because you're most likely creating an entirely new build setup for every geometry and every quantity that comes in the door, regardless of whether the material changes or not. So we talked a little bit about our vision for the AM software processes, and we've talked about how we've worked to alleviate, many of the pain points that companies experience with additive manufacturing. But I'd like to point out here that, Siemens hasn't done this alone. And as you've heard with our partner here, HP, and with Saratech and our channel partners, we have a growing ecosystem. We've connected our strengths with some of the best companies in additive manufacturing. The deep ecosystem of partners allows Siemens to augment our in-house build solutions with power from these partners. What this means for you is that you get the best capabilities in the industries integrated into a single system and allow you to get the best possible return on investment from your additive manufacturing process. But last but not least here, you don't have to take our word for it. Our customers are utilizing these solutions today to improve their own ROI from additive manufacturing. And I am going to turn this over to Jeff Blanford from MORF3D to explain the importance of his software solutions in his workflow. Take it away, Jeff.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thanks, everyone. My name is Jeff Blanford. I am a solution architect here at MORF3D. Today, I just want to spend a few minutes telling you about who we are, what we do, and really more importantly, why we do it and how, with help from partners like Siemens and Saratech, we're able to do it. Next slide, please. Okay, so who is MORF3D? What do we do, right? So we were founded in 2015 as an advanced end-to-end additive manufacturing solutions provider located here in El Segundo, California. We actually just celebrated our 6th anniversary last week, and we spent those last 6 years focusing on 2 areas really intensely. One, complete end-to-end metal additive engineering manufacturing solutions, and 2, specifically for the aerospace and defense industry. So, right, our customers are building everything from satellites and missiles to advanced propulsion systems and engine designs. So that's who we are, right? That's what we do. Next slide, please. But really what I want to focus on is why we do it, right? And some of these themes, you'll see on this slide have really, already been talked about, and we'll echo some of those themes here. What I really like to focus on and what we focus on here at MORF3D when it comes to the value that we can drive through additive, it really comes down to breaking relationships. And that sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but the relationships we're breaking here are relationships between cost and complexity and relationships of cost and lot size. So typically when a part is more complex, it's usually more expensive, right? More machining operations, more work that needs to be done. And an additive really breaks that relationship, whether you're printing a cube or whether you're printing a really complex lattice design. Generally speaking, the costs of the actual printing process itself are going to remain generally fixed. So complexity is cheap with additive manufacturing. I won't say it's free. That's something that a lot of folks say. I'd say it's cheaper. And obviously, and the other relationship we're breaking is the relationship of cost and lot size, whether we're printing 1 of a unit or whether we're printing 1,000 of a unit, right? Really, the cost of the print itself is going to be it's going to be completely variable rather than fixed, right? So we don't have all those issues with meeting enough demand to justify expensive tooling requirements. And really, if you take that even one step further, the benefit there is that because we have a lot size of effectively 1, we are able to our customers and we are able to basically iterate the design every time we hit the print button, right? So we're able to iterate much faster, and that means we're able to innovate much faster. So that all sounds great, right? What's the problem? Why can't we just be printing everything? Well, there are some extreme physical environments that have to be mastered in order to be able to produce these parts, right? We're essentially welding these metal parts from the ground up with metal powder bed fusion printing, which is what we strongly focus on here at MORF3D. And if you really try to kind of wrap your arms around that, what we're really doing is we're moving 1 or more lasers the size of a pen tip about 6 feet per second for the length of about a marathon for sometimes a week or longer in time duration, melting powder at about 3,000 degrees. And we're doing this all without deviating from the intended path more than about 2,000ths of an inch. So there's a lot going on. And because it's such a challenging environment, there's all sorts of exponential technology acceleration. Hardware from the printing manufacturer, software from our partners, Saratech and Siemens, for example, and the materials technology that all go into making this possible. That technology is accelerating rapidly. And every time there's a new version release of a software or a printer, it takes a lot of effort to be able to keep up with those and make sure that we're constantly integrating all those capabilities for the greatest possible benefit to our customers. So that's really where we sit, right? MORF3D sits as really a technology integration and application group where we're consuming technology from our software partners, our materials partners, and our hardware partners, and we're translating all that incredible technology into value for our customers, right? And because we're 100% focused on additive manufacturing and the end-to-end solutions that those require, and because we're able to move at the speed of a startup, again, we're able to iterate very quickly, and therefore we're able to innovate very quickly. Next slide, please. And again, what we really focus on here at MORF3D is not just offering printing capacity to our customers, right? There is some value in that, but really what we're trying to do here is really walk with our customers through that additive manufacturing journey, whether it comes to evaluating different systems and part designs for value added applications of additive manufacturing, helping develop material properties and different material requirements, and really providing kind of an end-to-end solution where we're not just delivering, again, time on printer, we're really delivering certified flight-ready hardware. Next slide, please. And as we're able to kind of work with our customers and our partners to really put the bat on the ball and continuously hit singles and build up that trust, what we're really pushing through as well with our customers and our partners is to really drive up the value chain to provide solutions that really go beyond just the typical ilities we talk about, right? Reliability, durability, maintainability, into much more complex and therefore much more valuable structures, right? We have a full engineering team here at MORF3D. We work shoulder to shoulder with our customers and their engineering teams to walk through a lot of these technical challenges and project management challenges that kind of arise with the amount of complexity that we're able to, that we're trying to deal with these problems. But ultimately, because of our partnerships with all with our suppliers and our partnerships with our customers, we're able to really bring together some very, very highly valuable solutions, such as the one you see here on the screen, where we actually used topology optimization within Siemens NX to drive a much lighter weight design for a satellite application. And go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Really where this comes down to, and really what I want to focus on here today as well, is all of this, whether it's, the actual end-to-end solutions that we provide for our customers, but really driving into higher value applications and really moving away from modification for additive manufacturing to truly designing for additive manufacturing. It would not be possible without the capabilities that are provided by the Siemens NX solution. Whether it's, and Matt covered all these a lot already, but the ability to work with CAD from any source, the ability to generate support structures in an associative way, such that if there are design changes, we can rapidly update and reprint, the ability to do build simulation to predict how the parts are going to deform and compensate for those deviations ahead of time directly on the CAD geometry. All those capabilities are incredibly important, but even more so is the ability to do all this in one place, shrink down our time from getting a design to actually having a printed finished part. That's really where we drive value, and that's that's a capability and that's a solution set that would not be possible without partners such as Siemens and Saratech. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your attention, and Andy, I'll pass it back to you for questions.
Great, thank you, Jeff. So we had a couple of questions that came in during the presentation, but in the meantime, if you have questions, please enter them into the Q&A panel and I'll read them out and our panel will address them. So the first question we have, this is for Wes. What different materials does HP have available today, and what does the future look like for materials?
Yeah, thank you, Andy. So we have a few different material types within the rigid plastics and elastomer range. And so our most common material with our technology right now is our PA12. It's a polyamide nylon. And similar to that PA12, we have PA11, which is another rigid polymer. It's another polyamide nylon. It's a little bit more ductile. has a little bit better impact properties. And then we have a glass bead filled PA12. That's going to be a little bit stiffer. And then we also have a polypropylene, which is a genuine polypropylene material, which is kind of unique in the industry. You don't see a lot of additive manufacturing technologies that have real genuine polypropylene that you can print with. So that's the rigid side. And then on the elastomeric side, we have a couple different TPUs, one from BASF and one from Lubrizol. So we've partnered with some big chemical companies to help bring those materials to market. And then we also have a TPA that was developed by Evonik, which is another type of elastomer, but it's a polyamide based elastomer. So that's the current material portfolio, and that's for MJF or multi-jet fusion, which is our plastics machine. We also in the future are going to have a metal jet printer, which is going to print in metal. And so this hasn't been released yet. It's not publicly available, but be on the lookout for that. And then on the MJF side, there's going to be further material development as well.
Great, thank you, Wes. I have a follow-up question from Peter. Does the materials currently existing deteriorate over time?
Right, so you asked if the materials deteriorate over time. I can kind of take that a couple different ways, like do parts deteriorate over time when they're in use? And that's true of any material, right? With fatigue or with creep or just with, seeing a lot of stress over and over again, parts deteriorate. The powder itself, when it's exposed to elevated temperatures for long durations of time, like it is in our process, our powders will oxidize, but that is what our refresh ratio is for. So, we reclaim all the powder we don't use in a print, and then we recycle that back into subsequent prints. With our PA12, it's 80% reused material, 20% fresh material. And that 20% fresh material is going to be enough to keep the condition of that powder stable over its lifetime. And you're not going to have to worry about oxidation or material degradation in that regard. Hopefully that helps answer the question.
Thanks, Wes. Peter also has another question. If there are complex parts that have critical dimensions, could 3D printing get them to the exact size?
That's an excellent question, and I think somewhat of a theoretical one. There's no manufacturing technology that can produce something with absolutely no error whatsoever. There's always going to be some sort of tolerance involved. And so what I would encourage you to check out is kind of what HP has been using to help associate our tolerances or our dimensional capabilities with some other manufacturing technologies out there. It's the International Tolerance Grading System, the IT grade system. And what this does is it's a table that breaks down for this nominal dimension. So say it's something between 0 and 30 millimeters. This is the tolerance you could expect for that. For something that's between 30 and 60 millimeters, this is the tolerance you could expect. For something up to 120 millimeters, this is the tolerance you could expect. Because like with many technologies, the bigger your dimensions are, the wider the tolerance range is going to be on those dimensions. And so HP multi-jet fusion, we most closely associate with the IT grade of 13, which is going to be somewhat close to kind of maybe soft tooling tolerances for injection molding. And so in the space of additive manufacturing, we are very good with our tolerances. We can get really accurate parts. In the broader manufacturing space as a whole, if you look at being able to injection mold or using CNC milling, I think we still have some progress to be made there. But yeah, hopefully that helps answer the question.
Great, thank you, Wes. And then we have a question that came in from Kenneth. I think this is more directed to Matt. So if a company is not using Siemens software today, do they have to make wholesale changes and make very costly upfront investment, or can the Siemens technology be used in conjunction or deployed in a way that is not prohibitive.
Absolutely. So if we recall back at the the slide that I showed of our end-to-end solutions, there's definitely a lot of information and software solutions in our portfolio, and I think even Jeff Blanford can attest that taking on every single bit of that solution all at once is asking for a lot of work. So, but it's nice to know that if you have a current need, if you have a current challenge, say for example, it's in laser powder bed fusion that MORF does every day, and you want to improve your first time ready print circumstances, the AM build optimizer that is designed to help simulate part orientation and some of the process simulation that goes along with laser powder bed fusion is a cloud-based product. It's fully GovCloud secure. It's so you've got your certifications with aerospace that go along with that, but you can access that type of solution at any point. You turn on a subscription, and probably within 8 hours during a day, you could be utilizing this tool and affecting the first time right printing circumstances that you have for your systems. And then also, as you look to the future, you can start building that out as your needs grow and your improvements grow, your investments grow. So no, it's not an all for one type of situation. You can implement solutions as standalone anywhere in your workflow.
Great, thank you, Matt. I think that's all the questions that came in. So just to recap, today you saw key trends in additive manufacturing. You saw the benefits of MJF additive technology and Siemens software tool, getting the most out of your 3D printing investment. And Jeff from MORF3D shared the innovative things that they're doing with additive and how they use Siemens software to do it. As an engineering company, we love helping customers realize better products by solving engineering and business issues. Saratech provides engineering expertise, services, software, and manufacturing solutions to improve customers' product development experiences. So contact us for assistance if you have any engineering needs. This webinar will be posted on our YouTube channel shortly. Follow us on social media to get the latest information. And I would like to thank our guest presenters today. Thank you, Wes. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Jeff, for being part of our webcast. Thank you, everyone who attended today, and we will see you on a future webcast.
Thanks for checking out our channel. If you like what you saw, make sure to like and subscribe down below so you don't miss out on any new videos. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter for the latest engineering news and information. And to see all of our upcoming events, please visit our website at saratech.com/events.